Hi, my name is Adam. I'm an alcoholic. I began having issues when I was in junior high, high school. We call it junior high back when I was there. Now you call it middle school. And, I was the kind of person who had tremendous social anxiety growing up. I was the kind of person who felt that if I could just, move something around on my face or change something about my body, that people would like me. I grew up with this anxiety and social anxiety pretty much all my life, but I really became aware of it in the summer between 7th grade and 8th grade, because what I would do is I would walk to my friend's house, which was about 3.5 miles away. This is in Los Angeles, where I come from, and I was going to a very nice junior high and high school. It's the kind of place where Elon Musk's kids go to school now. And over the summer, between my 7th and 8th grade year, I would go over to my friend's house, and what I would do is I would get some cheese and some crackers, and I'd wrap it up in a sweater. You don't need a sweater in Southern California, okay? And I would hold it in my hand like this, and my arm would be so tight walking. I would just be so stressed out walking over there. My arm would just be in this horrible rictus, and I would carry it the whole way for like an hour that way. And I grew up on a very big street in Los Angeles called Westwood Boulevard, which dead ends into UCLA, where I eventually graduated from undergrad. I could have taken this street directly all the way to my friend's house. Okay. Now, a couple things. I was bringing the cheese and crackers because I thought if I showed up to my own friend's house, that they wouldn't like me if I didn't have something, if I had some gift. That's how much anxiety I had, how some self-esteem issues in there as well. And so I was bringing the cheese and crackers for that. And like I said, I could have taken Westwood Boulevard all the way straight pretty much to my friend's house with a couple turns there at the end. But I was so nervous and anxious about people seeing me walking down the street holding this sweatshirt that was full of something and looking at me and judging me from their cars, that instead of taking this straight route, what I would do is I would take all these side streets to avoid seeing people and have them see me out of their cars, okay? So I had a lot of social anxiety as I went through high school, tremendous, like a lot of fear, difficulty connecting with people like in a real way. I had my friends, we played role-playing games, which was not a cool thing at the time. I was also a 3-sport letterman. I was quarterback of the football team my senior year, and I was in all the honors classes. So I did a lot of different things. And I was a member of a lot of different cliques as well when I was growing up. And I think because I floated between all of these different cliques, one way you could look at that is that I always knew somebody when we went somewhere, if there was a party or social event or whatever it was. But because I floated between the cliques, I also didn't really truly belong to anyone either. And that feeling of not being a part of maybe being less than, of why am I not, syncing up with this group or group of people in the way that other people seem to do, was something that really dogged me the all through junior high and high school. The first drink I had, if you want to know I'm an alcoholic, was on our senior trip. We went to Germany, the Czech Republic, and Austria. Now, when we landed in Austria, most of the cool kids, they beat feet, and they were like at a bar and drinking and smoking weed immediately. Okay. I grew up on DARE, drug abuse resistance education, and I was a 3-sport letterman. I was like, people who do drugs are bad, people who drink, they're bad, and that kind of thing. I would swallow any sort of Kool-Aid that the teachers or my school was pushing on me, because I didn't really know who I was, and I just wanted people to like me. I was desperate for people to like me, so I was all about DARE. When we finally got to the Czech Republic, which I think was the second leg of the trip, I found myself down in the hotel bar, and they had these giant sort of really nice cardboard signs for Jägermeister. And so that night, I took one shot of Jägermeister. My friends thought it was cool. It was the first time I'd ever had a drink or was messed up or whatever. And so that night I had 18 shots of Jäger, 2 shots of vodka, and 2 liters of beer. That's my first time getting drunk at 18, okay? Now, this is in the age really before the internet, before social media. Thank God, because the bartenders gave me these really nice Jägermeister signs because they thought I was like a Jägermeister spokesperson or something. I went back up to the hostel. It was hotel slash hostel we were staying in. And there is a photo of me in my underwear holding the Jägermeister sign, smiling. When I went back for my 30th high school reunion this year, or last year, I guess, I had the opportunity to connect with a lot of people that I went to high school with a normal set of responses and emotions. And it was wonderful. It's a blessing of being sober and being in recovery today. But that picture of me in my underwear holding that sign, one of my friends was like, hey man, I actually have that. So I have a picture of me doing that. And like I said, thank God there was no social media, right? Now, this kind of went on and on. You know, after I left high school, like I said, I was in all honors classes. I graduated with a 4.5 GPA. I went to UC Santa Barbara, which has a total of about 50,000 people, including graduate students and faculty on the campus. I was no longer an athlete in that atmosphere. There are no real honors classes in undergrad. I was just another person. So I lost a lot of the things that I chose to identify myself with, these external things. Okay? And that made me turn to other things to stop these voices inside my head that were filling me with fear and telling me that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't going to fit in, I was never going to hack it. So I went from having a 4.5 GPA to 1 year later dropping out of UC Santa Barbara with a 1.98 GPA. What I did was I moved back to Southern California, where I was from, and I got a job, my old job, working on the beach, renting bikes and rollerblades, which was a great job for me because they would pay in cash and they'd pay me when I wanted. So at the end of the day, I'd go, pay me out, pay me now. And they would, and I would go get whatever drugs or alcohol I needed, and you know, that was kind of how it went. You know, my life took a lot of twists and turns. I had a lot of people really help me out and give me a number of second chances. You know, I eventually moved to Northern California. My house was busted for growing an insane amount of weed. This is long before it was fashionable or legal to do something like that. And then I moved back to Southern California in with my grandmother. I took care of her the last couple years of her life, where she died of cancer, which was a blessing because both my parents and a lot of people in my family were alcoholics and addicts. I thought it was normal to come home and have a couple gin and tonics after work to unwind. I thought it was normal that my mom drank wine pretty much every night with dinner. She never really got drunk, but she was always drinking. I thought this stuff was normal when I was growing up, so it didn't occur to me that there were, you know, if you shake my family trees, a few bottles of alcohol might fall out. So I'm living with my grandmother. She's the first real parent I've ever known. She's a very strong, very tough lady. And, you know, right when I was really starting to plug into some of that, she passed away from cancer. I was glad that I was there, but it was, you know, it was very sad. And basically, by that point, I had sort of gotten my life together. I went to UCLA. I was drinking. I was drugging a lot. I did really well in school because that's the funny thing about alcoholics and addicts is that we can hold it together and form ourselves into a space to make people like us for a limited amount of time. Right, and that is one of the sources of our success and also our problem, right? Because you can't make everyone love you or like you or accept you all the time. And if you're trying to do that, you're trying to twist yourself into these spaces, you get into these weird knots where you can't do everything. And the only solution you have, or at least I had and most addicts have, is to drink and use to get these feelings of like, oh my God, there's somebody out there who doesn't like me. Oh my God, I can't please this person at this time. I can't do everything. Most people know that intuitively, you know, normal people know that that's not possible and it's not something you should be trying to do. But, you know, that's not the way my alcoholic booze brain works, right? That's what I grew up trying to do. It prevented me from forming a lot of real relationships and having this self-image where I was just not good enough and I was never going to fit in. Eventually, I went to law school. I had a science background in undergrad. I had a couple starts where I applied for medical school. I got into medical school, so if you're keeping track out there, I graduated from UCLA. I became an attorney. I then went back to medical school. I'm now in medical school, and I'm in medical school in Grand Cayman, which is in the Caribbean islands. And somehow at this time, I'm engaged to the woman who would become my ex-wife, Raquel. And we would talk every day when I was in Grand Cayman, the way people in a serious relationship do, just how you doing, what's going on with your day, yada, yada, yada. And the plan had been when I moved down there, it's so nice, was for her to move down to Grand Cayman and for us to get married there. So we're engaged, and we're talking one day, and you know, we have our normal conversation, and at the end of it, she says, "Oh, and by the way, I'm not coming down there." And then she just hangs up the phone. And then I was like, "Wait, what, we're getting married?" And I started to get like really upset and almost like start crying, and she just hung up the phone. And she wouldn't pick up when I called back. So now I'm trapped on this island, right? I have no way to contact her, get back, do anything. And I start to just cave in, right? I'm drinking an incredible amount at this point. There's no drugs on the island because they're just really hard to get. But all the bartenders there knew my name. They knew that if I left my credit card at the bar, that they could give it to me in the market tomorrow when they saw me walking around. I had that kind of relationship with them, you know, for better or for worse, probably for the worst. And eventually I got, you know, I just got so upset. I was just kind of crying and sobbing as the evening went on. And I spent probably, you know, it's probably about 16 hours sort of like crying and sobbing. Following that phone conversation with her where she hung up, during that night, we had a test the next day in medical school. And I got my roommate up 3 times. Because what I said to him was, I was like, "Hey man, can you get up? Can you just talk to me? I need to talk to someone, or I'm gonna freak out. I'm gonna go crazy." And what that meant to me was I was probably gonna run down the street and take off my clothes and get arrested. Okay? And my roommate, and keep in mind, we have a test in medical school the next day. He's like, "Yeah, I'll get up, I'll talk to you." So he'd talk to me for 10 or 15 minutes. He'd go back to sleep, and then I'd work myself up again and wake him up again. Thank God he was there. I didn't get arrested because of his kindness. When the sun came up, my body was covered with bruises and scratches from thrashing and beating myself. And, I was totally spent. There was just nothing left. I've been crying and sobbing. I was dehydrated. But more than that, like, it was like my soul, my emotions were completely dehydrated. There was nothing left. And I was like, something has got to change, and that is when I asked for help, and if anybody watching this video can take away one thing from what it is I'm saying, is like, if you have problems, whether or not they're related to drug or alcohol, you can ask for help. There's help all around you. You could turn to any one of your friends at any one point and be like, "Hey, this is not working out for me. Can you help me?" If one of your friends turned to you and said that, would you reject them or not like them or make fun of them? No, you'd probably be like, hey, what can we do? Let's try. Let me try and help you. Okay? So the help is there. It's all around you. And if you're feeling like you're alone, that's not the case. My name is Adam. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for listening.